What's going on, boys? It's Nick coming at you today on the channel with an update to my Ninja Krawler deck profile for the post-Photon Hypernova and post-February 2023 Banlist formats. Ninja Krawler is a deck that I brought to the channel about a few months ago. However, as much as I love that deck, I couldn't help but feel that it was a little bit unfinished due to the fact that there were still more Ninja cards on the way, and at the time I was still trying to perfect the deck and the combo lines to really figure out how to play that deck and play it efficiently. Now, I did go to my sneak peek last weekend, and I did get all the new cards that I needed for this deck list, like the fusion you see here before you. However, I held off on uploading the deck profile because I was still trying to streamline the deck just a little bit, and it turns out that it's a good thing that I did because we got a ban list this past Monday, which ended up banning Sprite Elf, which did indirectly affect this particular deck because we were running Elf as part of the combo line, like many decks were, obviously. So I'm glad that at least the ban list dropped, and this list does reflect, you know, the post-ban list, so we are not playing Elf in this list, and I tailored everything to make sure it flows well without Elf, or about as good as possible. So with that being said, this deck is really fun, and you know, it's something that I've spent a lot of time on, and I can't wait to showcase it for you guys here today. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do all kinds of Yu-Gi-Oh content related around rogue decks and casual decks alike. If you guys are tired of the meta or just want to see something a little bit more chill or off the beaten path, then this channel is definitely really good for that, as we do live duel videos, deck profiles, and other things of that nature. So with that intro out of the way, we are going to be diving straight into the deck list here, and as you guys know how we do it on the channel, we always start with the main deck and we start with the monsters. So we are running triple copies of Krawler Soma. Krawler Soma is actually this deck's extender, and a very good one at that. Pretty much you can target a face-up monster you control, special summon the Soma from hand, and if you do, you flip that targeted monster face down. Now keep in mind, Soma only targets your own monsters. It would be absolutely cracked and degenerate if it targeted an opponent's, but what Soma does is more than enough for what we need it for. While Soma is on the field, he can reduce his level by 2 or 4, and then you get to special summon Krawler monsters with different names from your hand, deck, or graveyard, whose levels equal the amount that was reduced. So pretty much if you reduce him, he's a level 6, so if you reduce him to a level 4, then you're able to special summon up to 2 Krawlers from the hand, deck, or graveyard, given that most of the Krawlers, or at least the flip ones, are level 2. And so this card works amazingly as an extender in this deck list. Definitely something that you want to open with as often as possible. Now for the targets that we summon off Soma is 1 copy of Spine and 1 copy of Axon. Now if you notice, compared to the previous list, we did cut down heavily on the Krawler monsters. That's partly due to the fact for a couple of reasons. Number 1, we lost Sprite Elf. So being able to combo with all the level 2s just doesn't work anymore now that Elf is banned post-list. And not to mention, I noticed that a lot of the Krawler monsters, the flip ones specifically, weren't really starters, nor were they extenders. In fact, they were kind of like garnets. They were just cards you just didn't really want to draw because they didn't really contribute to the deck's combo or any plays. It was pretty much you normal summon it, nothing would happen, or you would set it face down, pass, and then it's just a set 1 pass, which obviously isn't a great turn. So these are the 2 cards that obviously we summon off of the Soma. Krawler Spine being, both of them are flip monsters, Axon and Spine. And when they are flip summoned, Spine can target a monster in the field and destroy it, so pretty much a Mana Bug. And then Axon can target a spell trap on the field and destroy it, which is really, really strong. So you have an MST and a Mana Bug pretty much. Then they have other effects. If they leave the field by an opponent's card effect while they're face up, you get to special summon 2 Krawler monsters with different names from your deck in face down defense position, except a copy of themselves. Now that seldom comes up, but there are instances where it does, and we do have 2 other Krawlers. You know, you can, if Axon gets removed by a card effect while face up, you can summon Spine and a Soma, or you could, you know, vice versa, you can summon Axon and Soma. We are playing 1 more Krawler in the main deck, and that is actually Deuce X Krawler. This is another target that we run in the deck that we can summon off of the secondary effects of Spine and Axon if they are removed by a card effect while face up. Now, Deuce X Krawler, for those of you unaware, is an insanely cool boss monster for Krawlers. Pretty much, it is a flip monster. However, it's one of the few monsters in the game that actually has an effect that can trigger while it is face down. A really unique effect in the sense that if this card is targeted while it's set, it can flip itself face up and then negate the activation and destroy the card that attempted to target this. Then, while this card is flipped face up while it's in the monster zone, it prevents your opponent from activating the effects of their monsters. It's almost like a skill drain. pretty much, on a 3000 defense body, which is just huge. Not to mention that it's just difficult for your opponent to get around. It just shuts down a lot of different decks, and we do have a really sneaky one-card combo that we play in this deck list to get into Deus Ex Krawler first turn, which is really strong. So that rounds out the Krawler lineup. Like I said, we really cut down on a lot of the Krawler names just because, you know, all you really want to see is Soma as an extender, and then we play the 2 targets for Soma and then the 1 Deus. And so far, the deck's been flowing really, really well with that ratio. But now we're going to get to the bread and butter, which is the ninjas. We are on triple copies of Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo. This card is a starter for the deck, being that when he's normal summoned, you get to add a ninjutsu art card from the deck to your hand. Note that that is not a once per turn. So if you can summon out multiple Hanzos, you can, you know, trigger that effect multiple times. And then not to mention, when this card is flip summoned or special summoned, you can add a ninja monster from the deck to your hand, except a copy of himself. Also note the lack of a once per turn clause on this. So this card is easily abusable. One of the best ninja cards ever printed. And obviously you want to max out on that. So moving on to the newer ninjas, or the, you know, flip focus ones, we played triple copies of Mitsu, the insect ninja. Now she is amazing because she functions as an extender for this deck, being able to special summon herself from hand while you control a crawler monster or a set monster. She's just a free special summon, and while she's on the field, she's actually a monster negate. A bit of a convoluted one, but still a monster negate nonetheless. So pretty much when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control Mitsu, you can actually take a face down monster you control, flip it face up, and then flip the Mitsu face down. And then if that monster that you flip face up was a ninja, you can negate that effect. Now, again, it's a little convoluted on how that works. So she pretty much book a Taiyu as a set monster, book a Moons herself, and then if the monster you book of Taiyu face up is a ninja, you negate that effect. However, it doesn't have to be a ninja. Like, the only thing that you get off of that, if it is the effect negation. But you can, like, take a Krawler, for example, or any monster, flip it down, flip her up, and granted, you won't negate any effects, but she's still like a Book of Taiyu on command, which is really great for triggering certain ninja effects, as well as certain Krawler effects at will, which is really strong. So we max out on Mitsu, obviously. Also note that her typing and her defense stat actually come up for something really cool that we're playing in this deck list, which you guys will see shortly. But moving on. 2 copies of Tabari the Sky Ninja. This card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects the turn it was special summoned or flip face up. So that's really cool at, you know, being like a chum blocker, so to speak. But this card can actually discard itself from hand to special summon a ninja from hand in face up defense or face down defense position, which is really strong. Also, not to mention that while this card's in the field as a quick effect, you are able to fusion summon into a ninja fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. It's a really strong card, especially as a 2 of. Thought about playing 3 of it, but honestly at 3 it just felt a little bit cloggy. And since we can search it, I felt that 2 was the perfect appropriate number. So now moving on, 2 copies of Green Ninja. We finally got this imported from the OCG. It only took them so long. This card is a really great extender for the deck, being able to special summon itself from hand. If a monster is special summoned to the field, you can target that monster, special summon this card from hand, and if you do, you flip that monster face down. So it's almost like a Book of Moon and an extender on top of it. Then if this card is sent to the graveyard from the hand or field, you get to target any card on the field and change it to either face up attack or face down defense position. So that is crucial, not only for disrupting your opponent's plays, but being able to set up your own plays by like flipping your own monster's face up or flipping your own monster's face down to dodge certain removal or targeting effects, which is really, really huge. So 2 copies of Green Ninja. So glad that we finally have this card in the TCG. We play 1 copy of Baku the Beast Ninja. This card you play just as a one-off because you only want to search it off of cards like Hanzo. That way it can special itself, and then you get to add any ninja or ninjutsu art card from the graveyard or field back to your hand, which is cool. So it helps you, you know, in mid to late game to continue playing. 1 copy of Kagero the Cannon Ninja. This card is nice mid to late game as well, just because he also functions as a pseudo like extender in a way, or a way to get you back in the game upon his normal or special summon or flip. Or if he's flip face up, you can special summon a ninja from your hand or graveyard and face down defense position. Then while this card's in the graveyard, he also has the added benefit of being able to protect any ninja that's targeted by a card effect. You can bounce it to hand as a quick effect and then special this card from your graveyard and face down defense position. So like it helps your ninjas dodge targeting removal, which is really cool. So we just play 1 copy of Kagero. And then for the last ninja monster we main deck is the 1 copy of the Geo, the Gravity Ninja, which is brand new out of Photon Hypernova. This card is absolutely cracked. It's a level 8 rock effect monster. And it states that if it's normal or special summoned or flip face up, you can target up to 2 face up monsters on the field, change them to face down defense position. And if you do, any opponent's monsters that were flipped by this effect cannot change their battle positions. So this card is like a permanent Book of Moon on legs, pretty much. Keep in mind he can target your own stuff too. It's only if he targets your opponent's monsters, they cannot flip themselves or change their positions permanently, which is nuts. Then while this card is on the field, if a monster is flipped face up, you get to target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. So really strong card as a one of. We have so many ways to tutor this out of deck. It's not even funny. So that wraps up the Ninja lineup in the main deck. Now moving on to the rest of the monster lineup, we play 2 copies of Girsu, the Orcus Mech Knight. So remember that 1 card combo that I told you guys that can get us into a Deus Ex Crawler on first turn? We get it through the Girsu. So Girsu serves as an additional starter for this deck in the event that we don't open up a Ninja line. Girsu is literally a 1 card starter into a Deus Ex Crawler with the World Legacy Pawns trap card as well. Really cool line. So we played just 2 copies of Girsu. I thought about playing 3, but honestly 3 just felt a bit too much. Because we really don't rely on the Deus Ex. I just want to preface that now before we go any further. Just because we play Deus Ex in this deck, this isn't really a Deus Ex Turbo list. We really don't even need the Deus Ex, and it's not like we use it as a crutch either. This deck is very much capable of closing out games and doing its own thing without even needing Deus Ex on field. So, like I said, we just run this as a 2 of, because if we see it, we see it. If we don't, we're not even that worried about it in the grand scheme. So just 2 copies of Girsu, the Orcus Mech Knight. Then, moving on to the last, to round out the monsters, we play a hand trap, and that is actually triple copies of Contact C. Now, this is something that I'm trying to test out for this upcoming format that I think is a card that a lot of people are sleeping on. Basically, when your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you get to special summon this card from your hand to the opponent's field in defense position. Then, while this card is on the opponent's field, or just in general while the card's on the field, this card's controller, meaning your opponent because you're giving it to them, cannot fusion, synchro, XYZ, or link summon unless they use this card as material. Now you might think that that's not that relevant, but look at Kashtira for example. A lot of their cards like Theosis and the Rise Heart, they lock you into XYZ monsters for the rest of the turn once you activate those card effects. So think about after a Kashtira Theosis resolves, you go ahead and activate Contact C and give it to your opponent at resolution. How are they going to keep playing? They can't, because they're locked into XYZ monsters from the extra deck, so they can't link this off, which means they're pretty much stuck with this on field, and they have no way to make Shangri Era or Diablosis or even make a Rise Heart. They're pretty much floodgated for the turn, and all you do is give them a Contact C. And the same thing goes for any other deck for that matter. You give this to a Branded Despia player, for example. Yeah, maybe they have a way to link this off, but if they're locked into fusions, they're not able to do that. And most of their fusions, they're going to have to fuse using this as material, which puts them in a really awkward game state. So I thought that this card was a bit like 5-head, and I'm testing it in this list because I think it might have some really hidden potential this format, especially against Kashtira for the reasons that I stated. So we're on triple copies of it, and like I said, in testing, it seems to be working great, but I will have to take it to a locals and really see how well it performs. But that's it for the monsters, guys, and let's dive into the spells. We played triple copies of Terrors in the Hidden City. This is a continuous spell card that, honestly, every time I read this card, it makes me laugh because it's just so insane. Pretty much, it states that your opponent cannot target face-down defense position monsters you control with card effects. Then, monsters you control that were flipped face up while this card was face up on the field gain 1,500 attack and defense. So, this thing just, makes, every time you flip a monster, whether it's, for your flip summon or you flip it by a card effect, it just gains 1,500 attack and defense. While they're set, they can't be targeted by the opponent's card effects, which just gives it, an extra protection. And then it just makes everything you summon really, really big for no reason. Then, if this card and its owner spell Trapstone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target a monster in your grave and special summon it in face-down defense position. So we max out on this card because it just solidifies a lot of our boards and makes it that our opponents really struggle with a lot of our monsters, even if the low stat ones. But moving on, 2 copies of Tenchi Kaime. This card is always treated as a Ninjutsu art card, and it is the new Ninja Field spell. So, not once per turn. When a ninja monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target a card the opponent controls, destroy it. Again, not once per turn. Then, if this face-up card in its owner's field zone is left the field because of an opponent's card effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, you can target any number of ninja monsters with different names in your graveyard, special summon them in face-down defense position. So this card is really, really cracked. We're playing it as a 2-of in this deck, and so far it's been working really, really well. Then we're on 2 copies of Ninjutsu Art Notebook of Mystery. This card is pretty much like an E-Telly and a Rhoda for the theme. It allows you to set Ninjutsu Art cards and ninja monsters from the deck and graveyard respectively to your side of the field. However, only 1 card can come from each place. But it's a quick play spell, and it can only be used while the opponent controls a card. So we only play this as a 2-of, but it's pretty nice to just search whatever it is you need and also summon, technically, special sets, but any ninja you want to your side of the field, which is pretty cool. Then we play 2 copies of Ninjutsu Art Tool of Iron Digger. This is an equip spell that can be equipped to any monster on field, and once it is, it's treated as a ninja and it gains 500 attack. Now what's cool about this is you get to banish any ninja from your graveyard to target any card in the field and destroy it. Then if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to target a banished ninja monster and either add it to hand or special summon it in face-down defense position. We play this card as a 2-of because this is actually a really sick combo that we go into with the Mitsu, the Insect Ninja specifically, which you guys will see once we get to the extra deck. But moving on, for the remaining spells, we play 2 copies of Book of Moon, just because we want to be able to flip stuff face down and trigger a lot of our effects, and Book of Moon is really good to do that. And then we play for the last spell card is 1 copy of Instant Fusion. Now, there is a ninja monster, brand new out of Hypernova, that we can summon with this. However, we do play another tech card in the extra deck post-Banlist that Instant Fusion can get for us. That's also really cool. So that rounds up the spells, guys. Now we're going to dive into the traps. We main deck triple copies of Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. This card is absolutely nuts, especially going into Cash Terra format. It allows you to change as many monsters on the field as possible to face-down defense position. Then, if either player controls a face-up monster, they must send all face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. This is an insane effect, not only because it books the whole field, but any like Link monsters or any cards that are unaffected, like Towers type monsters, it forces the players to send those cards to grave. So like, this just clears anything that we needed to, and the fact that it's not even once per turn, it's an insane card, especially in this deck. Moving on though, we play 2 copies of Ninjutsu Art of Dancing Leaves, and it combos off really well with the Destructive Daruma Cannon specifically, because we can tribute either ninja monsters or face-down monsters from either field to then special summon ninjas from our deck. So, pairing this with the Daruma Cannon serves as removal, plus like an E-Telly type of effect, which is really insane. So 2 copies of Dancing Leaves. Then we are on 1 copy of Ninjutsu Art of Duplication. Really strong card to search off of Hanzo, especially for going first, because it leads into so many combos, being able to tribute a ninja and then special summon ninja monsters from our deck, whose levels equal or total the level of the monster tributed, excuse me. So overall, really cool card. And then to round out the last 2 traps, 1 copy of World Legacy Pawns and 1 copy of World Legacy's Mind Meld. This functions as another way to flip our stuff face up and down. And then Mind Meld is actually part of the Girsu combo. We dump this to grave with Girsu's effect, and that allows us to get into our Deus Ex for pretty much free. So that rounds out the main deck, guys. It is 44 cards. Now we're going to dive into the extra deck, in which we play 2 copies of Maizen the Battle Ninja. This card is nuts. It just requires 2 ninja monsters with different types. However, note that you don't have to fusion summon this card. You can actually special summon it by tributing the above monsters you control, which is really insane. While this card's on the field, it can make all of your ninja monsters the ability to attack directly. That is a non-activated effect. Then as a quick effect, when your opponent activates any card or effect, you can special summon a ninja monster from your deck, which is really crucial. Then, if that wasn't bad enough, your opponent cannot select this card as an attack target while we control a set monster. So overall, it's an amazing boss monster for the theme. So we played it 2 copies, not because we're going into Cash Terra format, and like we're just going to need 2 of our important stuff, but you want to play 2 of it anyway, even if Cash Terra wasn't a thing. Moving on though, we played 2 copies of Yaguramaru, the Armor Ninja. My apologies if I butchered that name, but this is brand new out of Hypernova. Again, same summoning condition as the Maizen. However, it must either be fusion summoned or special summoned from the extra deck by attributing the above cards. If this card is special summoned or flip face up, you can banish 1 other ninja or ninjutsu art card from your hand, graveyard, or face up field to then target a card in the field and banish it. This is amazing removal that the deck definitely needed, so it's really great that we now have the ability to summon that card. Then going back to our Mitsu plus the Iron Digger equip ninjutsu art combo, we're actually able to summon the Ultimate Great Insect from our extra deck. by equipping Mitsu with our copy of the Ninja Sword Tool Iron Digger. And the reason for that is because Ultimate Grade Insect, again, brand new out of Hypernova, has an alternate summoning condition where it must either be fusion summoned or special summoned from the extra deck by attributing one insect monster with 2,000 or more defense that's equipped with an equip card. Mitsu is an insect monster with 2,000 or more defense, and we have an Ninjutsu Art equip spell that we can equip to her, and both cards are searchable. So we can summon this for almost free, basically, and what's really cool about it is that it cannot be destroyed by battle. Then, once per turn during the battle phase, if a face-up card is in a field zone, that's either our field zone or the opponent's, quick effect, we can destroy all monsters the opponent controls. So really great card to just surprise our opponent with when we go ahead and equip our Mitsu with an equip spell, and the opponent's like scratching their head like, okay. And we literally just tribute them to summon this, and now the tables have turned for sure. So really cool that we're able to include this in the extra deck. And then for our other level 5 target, something that I forgot to mention with Yaguramaru is that's our instant fusion target. We also play another tech card, post Banlist. Now that we lost Elf, we had the room for this, a copy of Invoked Raijin. We can summon this card off of instant fusion. Now the reason why we play this in this deck is because it's once per turn, quick effect, we can target a face-up monster on the field, change it to face-down defense position. So this card's a quick effect Book of Moon. Now what's cool about this is that we can actually target itself with that effect to book it, and then it will actually dodge the destruction effect that instant fusion places on that fusion summon monster at the end phase, which I think is really, really cool. And then when you combine that ability with cards like the Terrors in the Hidden City, when you reflip summon your Raijin, he just gains 1,500 attack and defense for free and just becomes this insane Book of Moon on legs that is really difficult for your opponent to get around. So I thought that was a really cool tech choice. So we play that as a one of in the deck. But now moving on to our Exceeses, we play one copy of number 2, Ninja Shadow Mosquito. I can't believe we got this card in Battles of Legend. Super fun card to make in this deck super easily, just requiring 2 level 2 monsters. It can't be destroyed by battle. Any battle damage we take from battles involving this card is reduced to 0. And then we can detach a material from this card when an attack is declared to place a hallucination counter on a face-up monster. Note that that does not target. And then it says negate the effects of monsters with the hallucination counter on them, which is pretty cool. Then, again, when an attack is declared, we can inflict damage to the opponent equal to the attack of one monster with a hallucination counter. Note that none of these effects are once per turn. So, like, we can just, like, declare an attack, put a hallucination counter on an opponent's monster by detaching a material, and then any other monster we attack with, because an attack was declared, we can just burn the opponent equal to the attack of that monster with that counter, which is just insane. So this card is really crazy for closing out games, really, really fast. Then we play one copy of Gigantic Sprite, because we can actually use this to summon cards like Mitsu from deck, as well as Green Ninja, or any of our level 2 crawler monsters, so Gigantic Sprite serves a really good role in this deck list. And now moving on to the links, we play one copy of Ninja Grandmaster Saizo. Again, really cool Ninja Link monster being able to help us search for our ninjutsu art spells and traps by sending them directly to our side of the field. And then also this card has some really cool protection that while he's pointing to a monster, the opponent cannot target it with card effects or target it for attacks, which makes him really difficult to remove at times. One copy of the X-Crawler Quailiarch, just a crawler link that we can make generically through our Soma combo. One copy of Lib, the World Key Blade Master. We go into this off the Gearsu line that helps us make our Deus Ex Crawler turn 0. So a very strong card. It also helps us search for any World Legacy card, which is really cool. Then one copy of the IP, followed by one copy of Unicorn, just so we can make Unicorn in the opponent's turn and just have some free disruption, basically. Then we play one copy of Beauregard Dragon, just because it's got a quick effect to target any monster on the field and change it to face-up defense position, and the opponent cannot respond to that effect's activation. So it's like a spell speed 4 kind of effect. So we play the Beauregard because it can help us like Book of Moon our monsters, or I'm sorry, Book of Taiyu our monsters, or change our opponent's stuff to defense during the battle phase to prevent them from beating over stuff. So Beauregard's pretty good for that. And then to round out the extra deck, we're on one copy of the Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, which, again, if we make this with IP, just becomes a nightmare for a lot of decks to deal with, especially Kashtira, because I don't think they have many outs that don't target. So I would like to try and see them out of Avermax. They probably only out that they have is Zeus, probably, if they can even get to that. But anyway, that's it for the extra deck, guys. We're going to run through the side deck briefly. We played triple copies of the Space Rock, because I think going into this format, Space Rock is just insane. Also, something to note that has a cool synergy with this deck is that Nibiru only tributes face-up monsters. So if we have a field full of set monsters, Nibiru's only tributing all the cards that are face up. So our set monsters are safe from, like, we don't lose our monsters to Nibiru, which is really insane when you think about it, especially with the way that this deck plays. So I thought that was a pretty cool, like, touch. We play one copy of Thunder King, the Lightning Strike Kaiju. The reason why we play this in the side is because we can actually search it in the event that our Deus Ex Crawler gets removed by our opponent's card, whether that's battle or card effect. So I thought that was a pretty neat tech choice as well. Then we played triple copies of Lightning Storm, just to help us for going second, breaking boards and whatnot. We are on triple copies of Book of Eclipse, because again, we are going into Kashtira format, and you're going to need cards like this to help you get your zones back with the Shangri-Ira zone locking going on. 2 copies of Sol and Luna, just as like pretty much other pseudo copies of Book of Moon, except it targets a monster we control and a monster the opponent controls, and changes their positions face up or down, you know, depending on what those positions were at when we targeted them. So a really cool card. And then to round out the last of the side deck, we're on triple copies of Floodgate, Trap, Hole, just as another trap we can add to this deck when going first. And it just makes it really hard for our opponent to even make a board and break our field. When everything they summon, we can just Floodgate, Trap, Hole it, flip it down, and they can't change the position of that card permanently. So that's it for the deck list, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the updated list to the Ninjas and Crawlers, post Banlist and post Hypernova. Thank you guys so much. If you got it this far in the video and haven't hit that like button or subscribed, please do me a favor and just like the video and subscribe. I'm trying to work my way to 1,000 subs, and I promise you guys that we'll continue bringing you really cool and unique Yu-Gi-Oh content post Banlist as well as post Hypernova. Stay tuned for more deck profiles and more Yu-Gi-Oh content related to cool stuff upcoming on the channel pretty soon. With that, guys, this is Nick signing off.